everyone. Come on in, everyone. Come on in. What? Welcome, welcome. Come on in, everyone. What an extremely important discussion that I want to get engage in on today. So y'all come on in. You all join. This here is very interesting. And I'm going to welcome everyone to the simple question that I'm posing in this live. Who is checking in on the strong ones? You know, the people in your circle, those that everybody knows, that everybody runs to for help. Yeah, that person who's checking in on the strong ones. So y'all come on in. We have a important discussion. I'm going to get everybody in on here in this discussion. Bring your family in, bring your friends in. If you all know someone who's that person that everyone relies on, the superhero, y'all log on in. I'm asking this question is, so y'all get somebody in on who's checking in on the strong ones. I know we are not used to entertaining a question like that. But, you know, I belong to the helping profession. I belong to a world where everyone, I chose a field where my profession and my work centers around helping people, from counseling to problem solving to people dealing with fatherhood and visitation issues. The work that I do is nonstop. So I need you all to log on in and y'all get somebody's attention here and let them know that Dr. White is posing a very important and needed question tonight around who's checking in on the strong ones. So I need y'all to get somebody in, bring them in, tell someone to just jump in for a second. I've got some strong recommendations and I have a little myth busting that I want to do around this notion of who's checking in on the strong ones. So if you the strong one, if you the counselor, if you the therapist, if you are the pastor, y'all, I got the baddest pastor on the planet, Pastor Timothy Bullock at Woods Memorial Baptist Church. And every week I just got to check in on him because when you are in that position, people tend to turn to you. So if you're the strong one, if you know somebody, y'all jump on in, y'all join into this discussion on who's checking in on the strong one. So I'm going to be honest here. I want to try to be authentic here. So y'all join on in and you all tell someone. And I just want to start before I really get into this. Are you a strong one? Those of you who are watching me on YouTube, you can jump on over to the TikTok live and pose your questions and ask your questions. Are you the strong one? Welcome. Let me get people in. Professor M, glad to see you. Valerie Harris, I'm glad to have you come on in. Y'all tell somebody. James Adams, y'all glad to have you in. Dion, glad to have you in. Y'all get ready. We want to engage in this discussion. So y'all come on in. James, glad to have you in. Y'all, we are going to jump into this discussion or who's checking in on the strong one, because I know some of y'all are the strong people. Those of you who are in the religious community, people turn to you. I don't care what that religion is. When you find yourself, when it is your calling, when you are anointed to be that person, that you can run the risk of putting yourself on a pedestal. So today, those of you who do that work, I'm about to get y'all off the pedestal. I'm about to direct some people just for a moment to call and check in on you. So who's checking in on the strong ones? Y'all come on in. I want to see who else we got here on the day for this discussion here on checking in on the strong ones. I'm excited about this. Y'all, I got some stats. I got some facts. I got some important information. Teddy, glad to have you on in this dialogue. So y'all get ready on here because it's time for me to be honest, and I want to be authentic in here on this discussion here. And so you all, we're going to stay on task here. We're going to engage in this much needed discussion around checking in on this strong one. Lacey, I'm glad to see you, glad to have you on. So who are the strong ones? Are you a strong one? If you're a strong one, y'all throw me up a heart sign, throw me up a thumbs up. I want to know who is the strong ones. If you are the strong one, if you know somebody. Jeremy, glad to have you on. I'm reaching out. I want to hear from the strong ones. I want to know if y'all have someone in your family who was always the person that folks turn to for help and to problem solve. So if you're the strong one, y'all join on in right now because this here, in fact, is what I call a reality that we can't enjoy. So you all come on live. We are live here right now, and we are going to engage in this here. And I got the work. I just want to get everybody in right quick. I want to make sure my therapist, and if I have any clinicians out there that are watching, if I have any therapists on there, if I have any ministers that are on there, if I have anyone that's joining me today, and you're that family member, you are that family member that everybody turns to. If I have those people, just throw me up a heart sign, throw me up a thumbs up. Let me know if you're that person in your family that everyone tends to turn to. I think it's an honest, and I think it's an absolutely authentic discussion that we have to get into, because in reality, this is a reality that we cannot ignore. So before we get into talking about the strengths, and before we get into all of the important aspects of what we understand, that right now, I need you all to understand that right now in this country, too many people, especially Black men and women, are suffering in silence. And so I just want to unpack just a few stats just to bring this to your attention and bring this discussion to light. Men, for example, account for nearly 80% of all suicide deaths in the United States. Think about that. Suicide rates among Black men and boys have risen significantly in recent years, with an increase reported over 25% in some groups. Mental health struggles often are untreated. It goes untreated, especially for those superheroes. And less than half adults, y'all hear me? Less than half adults are dealing with mental health issues, but no one knows. So let that sink in, because I'm talking about the strong ones right now. Y'all bring somebody in. I'm talking about the strong ones. I'm talking about the providers. I'm talking about the protectors. I'm talking about the ministers. I'm talking about the people that everyone depends on. These are ones who are often quietly suffering in silence. And so we look at the emotional burden and role, even for those you all that are not in the helping profession. Glad to see you, Gina Golden. Glad to see you, Michael Carter. Glad to have y'all on, man, in this discussion. I'd love to see your comments and your input when we certainly jump into this. The emotional burden, you don't even have to be a professional, right? There's an emotional burden and the role strain that comes for people who are even caregivers. Now, think about this, you all. According to the National Alliance for Children, for Caregivers, and the AARP and other caregiving research, they have found that, think about this, you all, that individuals in caregiving and problem-solving roles experience higher chronic stress and emotional exhaustion. Think about that, emotional exhaustion, than those who are not in that caregiving role. Think about this. I'm talking about those that everyone is going to. Caregivers are significantly and more likely, think about this, y'all, to report issues of anxiety and depression symptoms, sleeping disruptions, and some isolation. So, y'all, what I'm getting at here, Dr. Lewis, glad to have you on. I might have to bring you in. So what am I getting in here? I'm talking about that these are people who are on that pedestal, because everybody know them. They are known as the superhero, but they cannot take the cape off. And so here comes the sleep disturbance. Here comes the isolation. Here comes the mental health issues. Here comes the suffering in silence, because they have found themselves on that pedestal. So we have to engage in this piece here, because they are constantly relied upon for their experience. But there's something called emotional suppression. So these are people, Gina, you know these folks. These are people who do this work, but they put their own crisis, they put their own issues on the back burner, and they're quickly run to the rescue of other people, right? Some of these people here, when we began to see them, when they position themselves in that regard, people run to their rescue, but then they'll put theirs in the background, or they will say they need the help. But think about this, India. Think about this, Anthony Rich. They need the help, but here's what people who walk around with that cape all the time tend to do and say, I know you're going through your own stuff. So, I didn't want to burden you with what I'm going through. So that's the pedestal that some people put themselves on. So we have to get them off of this pedestal really quick. Now, there's some myths, you all, that comes with being on this pedestal. That comes with being the person that everyone turns to. So this notion of being strong, right? So it's when you look at it through this lens, that this is the person who never complains but takes everybody complaints. These are the people here that we're used to being strong, that everyone sees them as having it together. Some folks in the mental health field, some people in the social service field, some people just in the helping profession, period, they have mastered what I'm calling masking their own humanity, right? So what I'm saying here, Maxine, glad to have you on. What I'm saying here is that these are people who are used to, they'll put up the facade and put it together. And what is happening is that they began to attract even more people to them, right? So the strength becomes performance, not authenticity. Y'all hear what I'm saying? That strength, meaning you got it together, you're the problem solver, it becomes, good to see you, Victor Core. That strength becomes your performance, but you're not authentic. Strength becomes silence, and it's not stability. So we have to examine this, right? Somewhere along the way, strength stops meaning healthy and started meaning hidden. So somewhere in this journey, Billy, somewhere on this, T. Owens, somewhere in this money, that those who do this work, that being strong suddenly is hidden, their mechanism for hiding their weakness. So no one checks in on the strong ones, right? So why don't they check in? So I want to ask you all this very quickly. Why do you think people don't tend to check in on the strong ones? I'm seeing everybody join, but I want to hear, why do you think people don't tend to check in on the strong ones? Somebody give me a reason why you think people don't check in on the strong ones, right? The people in your family or the people in this field. Why we don't check in on them? That's a good question. I'd love to kind of hear. I'm telling you right now, I have a couple recommendations and I got a couple thoughts, but I want to see what happened. Goodness, good to see you. Why don't people check in on the strong ones? Yeah, I'm gonna get started, and I look forward to seeing some of your comments to my first question. Why we don't check in on them? Here's number one: because people who are the strong ones, they tend to make it look easy. Gina Golden says it's defined role. Everyone is in agreement, right? I like that. I think these roles we fall into, and then everyone sees that person that way. Thank you, Gina, for that. But they make it look easy, right? The competence creates invisibility. Y'all hear what I just said? Competence, because that's what you do. That's your knowledge, that's your expertise, that's your anointing. But what happens, it then tends to create this sense of being invincible, right? So the competence creates the invisibility. That means that people no longer see your flaws. Anyone else, if you're watching this, why do you think we tend to let that go? Want to give a shout out to a couple of people who are joining. Thank you, B Web, for joining on in. Thank you, Nook, for joining on in. I'm glad to see some of y'all coming into this discussion. So number one, I'm going to tell you, we don't tend to check in on the strong ones because they tend to make it look easy, right? That's the competence that creates the invisibility. And people assume, think about this. People just assume that the strong ones are good. Anyone else? Why don't you think people check in on the strong one? Now, for you ministers, for your therapists, for your problem solvers in the family, here's what I want to bring to y'all attention of why people tend to not check in on the strong ones. Y'all ready for this? Because they train people not to ask. I don't mean that they're literally training them, right? Gina says that they often refuse to help. Yes, I like that. You do. I'm good. I got it right. So they train people, and Gina, you jumped right in on that because they train people not to ask. Right? They're always showing up for other people, but never expressing a need. Thank you, Gina, for bringing in that response was right on time. So why don't we check in on the strong ones? Now, again, I'm doing this because some of y'all, you have your go-to person for every crisis, and you have your go-to person for every emergency. But the question I'm posing here, and you'll see I'm going to raise it in a moment, that can the go-to person come to you? Now, not only do these people make it look easy, not only do they train the people not to ask. And before I do that, because I want to go to the other one, but I want to just kind of dance around this one for a second, y'all. How do we train people not to ask? Well, Gina said it. It's the quick deflection, right? We deflect. Rolls Royce, oh, glad to see you on. Jalissa Predict, glad to have you on. Shaka, man, I might need to bring you in sometimes, but often the strong ones are supporting individuals with limited capacity. Damn, Shaka, I got to bring you in. I got to figure out how to bring you in on this piece here, right? Is long-term watcher raising this as a question and as an issue? Y'all, Shaka Barrett, y'all got to look him up, man. He's a bad therapist, one of the baddest therapists, especially you young men dealing with mental health issues. And we're going to get to that. So Shaka, you get ready. I need to bring people your direction, right? People are comfortable not receiving it, right? So problem solvers become very comfortable in the no probing, right? So you ask them what they doing, they saying they're good, right? You good? Yeah. Yeah. You straight? Yeah, I'm straight. You okay? Yeah, I'm straight. Right. So they're used to people not probing. So, we have to dance around this question of why don't we ask and check in on the strong ones. And so we pause and we do that. Timothy Conway, glad to see you, man. We are engaging in a strong conversation about why we don't check in on the strong. And Shaka, back at me. Sometimes we are as helpers allow our arrogance, to block our humanity. Humanity is necessary when seeking help. Y'all hear what Shaka said? I'm going to pause right there because it's just that powerful that sometimes we as helpers allow our arrogance to block our humanity. Shaka, you got to write you need an article on that, a blog on that. We allow our arrogance to block our humanity. What is Shaka saying here, y'all? Shaka is saying that because we put ourselves up on that pedestal, that's where he's at. You get up on that pedestal, everyone sees you. You've trained people to look up to you, but the people are not used to you looking down upon them for help. So that we trained them with our arrogance. Man, that's a powerful point there. But no one asked some important questions, right? So these helpers, I'm going to tell y'all what they need. Don't ask them if they're good. Don't ask them if they're straight. Do this. What's been heavy on you lately? When you can see it on their face. What are you not saying out loud? I belong to an organization called Let Us Make Man, and this is Reverend Kenyatta Bush. I love this. Y'all, I got some powerful ministers in my circle. Reverend Kenyatta Bush, he sees me sometime and he'll say, "You straight?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm good." And immediately Reverend Bush said, "No, you're not." And I love the fact that the people in my circle are confronted, right? So this is what keeps me off the pedestal. Y'all got to have somebody in y'all circle to keep you off the pedestal. So Reverend Bush says, "No, you're not." He down there in Griffin, Georgia, our powerful pastor. But he says, "No, you're not." And he confronts me, right? The strong ones themselves, y'all have to understand this. They avoid vulnerability, right? The fear of, and Shaka touched on this a moment, the fear of being a burden to others. Now, isn't that interesting? That the strong ones have a fear of being a burden to others, right? However, they allow everyone to be the burden for them. Y'all see that? So this fear sometimes is somewhere in the midst of this and doing that, their identity is going to get lost, right? Then all of a sudden, you have put in your mind that someone's going to look and say, "Oh shit, your armor, there's a chink, there's a scratch in your armor. Oh my God, your cape looked like it got a few holes in it." Right? The fear of being seen something other than what you are. So, brothers, my sisters, ladies and gentlemen, those of you who are in the field, y'all need to get down. Y'all need to come off that stage. And I know it may be kind of difficult to do, but it's a true reality. So the question I want to ask is, how do you know if you're that strong one? How do y'all know the strong one is starting to break? Think about this. So this is going to be the first time that I'm going to pause and challenge y'all. When you think right now about the strong person in your family, or the strong person in your circle, or that strong person that everyone knows about. So here's your turn of self-awareness. How do you know that they're beginning to break? How can you tell that the strong person in your circle is kind of going through some stuff? I'm going to give y'all one. I want to hear from you. How do you know the strong person is starting to break? Here's mine. All of a sudden, I stop hearing from them. Right? I got a real good friend, love her to death, love two of them, love her to death, love them to death. I always know something's happening when all of a sudden I shoot a text, what's up, or a call, and I don't hear from them. So so that's where it becomes problematic. So it's a good question there, but how do you know they're starting to break? I think that's a authentic question to really hone in on, right? So we're talking about signs that the strong person is starting to break. Teddy said, or they stop caring about helping other people. Damn, Teddy, absolutely. So you're talking about Teddy. I was talking about some early signs of burnout. Right. Excellent point, Teddy. Thanks for bringing that in. Right. They stop caring. They stop responding. That you can actually see that they're beginning to be a little worn out. Good to see you, Philly. Right. So we see this burnout beginning. And Teddy, you are right on point. I didn't even think about that, but they stop being available. They start to fade to black. These are some signs, y'all, that these folks are starting to burn out. Right now, suddenly they become unavailable. And let me just pause for a second, because the person who has put himself on the pedestal, right? They see that. Now, Shaka says at my job, my CEO, who is a doctor, Psych D, he says, and are working on a compassion fatigue workshop. Absolutely. And we have to talk about that. Shaka, we have to come on in next week and let's talk about compassion fatigue, because that's a form of burnout. That is what Teddy just said, and Shaka is touching on it now. We start to see that as Teddy said, then you start to stop caring as much. So that's the exhaustion that's masked as resilience. I'll be good. Just give me a moment. Right? Internal isolation. You all, this is another sign that folks, and it's very interesting, y'all, because internal isolation that, and I want y'all to hone in on this, right? Everyone needs me, but I have no one. So this is the internal isolation. What that really means for those of you who are in the helping profession, for those of you in the field, what I'm getting at here is that the internal isolation, that means that nobody on the outside can see it. Right? Nobody can see it on the outside, but they have the entire the isolation. They began to think that there's no one for them. So we see it. They're the go-to person in the family, but now they have developed the isolation. Right? This is connected to what Shaka said here in terms of compassion fatigue, and what Teddy said about they stop helping. It's delayed collapse. They don't break loudly, they break late. So now all of a sudden you can't reach them. You in the helping profession, all of a sudden you can't reach them. Shaka says sometimes the therapists have our own trauma-related trust. Ooh, we avoid vulnerability. Damn, Shaka. Y'all hear what Shaka, you got to get in the PhD program at Clark Atlanta University. We got work to do. Gina, you need to come over to CAU as well. But sometimes Gina says it could be the first step they are making towards establishing a healthy boundaries. That's what we need, Gina. That's what this much of this part is, and why I wanted to pause and break this discussion down, because I think you're right on point. The healthy boundaries, as what Shaka called your humanity, right? We are we are clients with degrees in licensure, but we're human, right? And so that's the part that Gina and Katrina is talking about as well. We are human, y'all. We're trying to avoid the delayed collapse. We're trying to avoid that. Sometimes you have to take away and step away first. There it is, always human first. Gina, you're right. But here's the reality that's the art. We have to remind ourselves what the is, and I need y'all recommendations. Some people get so far up on that pedestal, they don't know how to come down. Gina, thank you very much. Because we got to talk about how to get them down. The danger, y'all listen to this. The danger isn't that the strong ones struggle, it's that they struggle silently until it's too late, right? So people admire their strength, but they rarely ask about their pain. And so we have to hone in on this and be have some reality here. So how do we know these strong people start to break? And Gina, as you pose, and what do we do about that? Right? And some of y'all, you have friends that are like that. So let me just kind of pause for a second. But here it is. Damn, Shaka, you want it, right? Shaka said, but we need to support that doesn't forget our humanity and creates a safe space. Right. So here's what I'm saying we need to do in that. You all know those friends who do that. And I want to invite you and challenge them to tell them to take a break. Tell them, oh, y'all, this is the most radical thing you can do. Tell them to get used to telling people no, not right now. Right? You don't have to have an excuse why something else going on. No. I'm telling you, sometimes you have to just tell people, you know what? I don't have the capacity right now. I hear you right now, but I just don't have the capacity right now. People think because you're not available to them, something's happening or something's going on with you or what's wrong. And that's the wrong way to check in on someone. That think about this concept that something must be wrong if you can't help them. And what I'm saying is, when I say I don't have the capacity in that moment right now, ain't nothing going on. Just in this moment, I ain't got the, I don't have the capacity, right? Shaka says, literally part of our presentation, no one is complete. Is a complete sentence. I kind of like that concept, right? But you all just think about what we're hitting at right now. That every once in a while, you just have to tell somebody, right now, I can't. I don't have the capacity, right? I'm sold out right now. So what do I need for those of you in the helping profession? And I'm looking for those ministers. Thank you, Golden, for seeing that. Y'all, where the ministers at? Y'all get them on. Where the people in that area, right? So because there's some things that I am asking, and I need your help, right? Why they must learn to ask for help. So y'all help me on here. Emma, good to see you. Glad to have you. Emma White, we must be related, right? Shaka says, but we have to be honest with ourselves as helpers and stop thinking we are superheroes. Yes, what I need y'all to do, I need you to take the cape off, right? So why they must learn to ask for help. So this is where we are right now. Why must they learn to ask for help? Sean, glad to have you on. Glad to have you as a viewer. So there's a couple reasons why I'm saying that those people in the healthy profession, why you got to learn to ask for help. Not only in the helping profession, I'm talking about the caregivers of your own family, y'all. So we'd be talking about therapists, but I'm talking about, the middle child. I'm talking about that one person in your family, that cousin that everybody goes to, right? Why these people got to learn to ask for help? Well, a couple reasons, right? Strength without support, right? Strength without support becomes emotional suppression. Anxiety, depression, anger, all of that, right? Allow oneself to be vulnerable as they require our clients to feel that way. Absolutely. But this is work, and they're friends. Those of you who are in this field, I'm going to tell you that you've got to tell them that. Allow them to be human. We must ask, and we must learn to ask for help as well, because reframe, right? Asking for help. And this is what Shaka's getting at, Gina's getting at, and other people are getting at here. Think about this, that why we must learn to ask for help is because the challenge is that we have to reframe the concept of asking for help, because help does not mean weakness. Help does not mean vulnerability. Help sometimes just means I got a lot of shit going on, just like all the shit that I help you with. Yes, believe it or not, I can have a lot of shit going on too. And so, but we have to reframe, we have to restructure. And what I'm really getting at, y'all, is that we have to get some of the people, those of you off of that pedestal. We're talking about reframing as well. It's not either or it's both. Yes, we began to look at that. So emotional intelligence becomes and survival. It becomes something that we have to learn to rely on and understand that it's emotional intelligence and a form of survival when we can get ourselves off and we begin to restructure our thinking. So for those of you who are in that, good to see you, T-Chops. Glad to have you on. You're not asking, I like this here, you're not asking for help. You're assessing your support. Every once in a while, it certainly doesn't hurt to ask some folks for some support. So there's some teaching here that I do want to kind of offer up, right? Language of asking, teaching the language of asking. I'm not okay right now. Imagine that right now. Yeah, look, somebody called, G, what you up to? I ain't straight right now. I'm gonna have to hit you back, right? Or I need your support. I got a lot of shit going on. I just need to get it off my chest, right? This is some language, right? Or y'all ready for this? I don't have the answer. Shit, I don't know. I just don't have the answer. What can I do to be the most supportive of you in this moment? Silence. I like this in this moment. Silence, listening, and fixing, and space. Gina, I need to bring you in here, right? What can I do to be the most supportive of you in this moment? Try the silence, listening, fixing, space. Gina's right on point, because all of those, sometimes the silence, and Gina, I'm gonna step on this. Sometimes the silence just means to listen, right? Sometimes it's just to listen, right? So what that means is that that they don't need you to problem solve. They don't need you. Dina's saying that sometimes they don't need you to problem solve. The superhero or the helper just needs you to listen, right? And my God, what help you can give, right? Is it a matter of fixing? Believe it or not, those of you who are in that that space, even if you need someone to help you talk things through, that's important. But Gina Golden, I'm going to tell you, the last one is my favorite: space. Sometimes what's really that superhero need or that helper need is just a little space. And Gina Golden, did you go to Clark Atlanta University School of Social Work? Give me a thumbs up. You do. Your name looks very familiar, right? So you cannot heal what you refuse to reveal. Right. So put that on all you therapists, you people in the health profession. All right, that's my moniker. Y'all gonna see my shirts that come out that says you cannot heal what you refuse to reveal. Right. I need to get that trademark before I see it pop up somewhere. But yeah, that becomes a very important point. But this one, that statement, I'm directing to those of you who who've got to learn to ask for help, because if you don't and you keep this stuff to you, then I'm going to tell you that even as a therapist or working with someone, you see what they're going through. Y'all can see these traumas. You can see these triggers. Y'all can look at people in the health profession. You know that when you're looking at people who have certain triggers, you know that sometimes those triggers are related to some untreated trauma. And so, but then they're in denial of these triggers and the effect that they're having on them. They're in denial that there is stuff from their childhood or stuff from recent traumatic events that they have conditioned themselves because they are in the helping profession, that they got it all together. And so therefore they try to move on and they say they're good. But that's why I give the moniker that you cannot heal what you refuse to reveal. So so that's what, it becomes important to do that. So this is what I need that's important for those people who are the problem solver in the family, right? Now I want to move beyond how we are doing. So I want to challenge y'all to probe the people in your circle who are the helpers. I need y'all now to probe a little bit beyond just simply checking in on them. I need you to challenge the surface level communication that we give to people and get it beyond how are you. And so, because that notion of how are you is really, are you good? All that becomes automatic. It becomes performative. And actually, it becomes something that's easy to deflect. So you do that superficial, you good? Yeah, I'm straight. Now, I really want to hone in on you brothers, and that we have been socialized to keep our stuff together. We have been socialized to internalize so much. So that's where when I say you can't hear what you refuse to reveal, we began to see it. But to check in on people, the challenge, y'all, that we run into is that we engage in that surface level communication, which is automatic, it's performative, and it's easy to deflect. But I want to challenge y'all to ask some deeper questions, right? So what am I going to push? I want you to ask somebody, what's going on with you this week? What's weighing in? And wait. And you can look at someone's face, and you don't have to have you don't have to be a licensed professional counselor. You don't have to be a licensed social worker or a family therapist. You don't have to be all that to look at somebody and know that the cognitive dissonance is taking place, which means what they are saying and what you are seeing here becomes two different things. And so we have to learn to probe a little deeper in our conversations. What you struggling with right now? No, I'm good. No, I see it, right? And then when they do let it out, this is a powerful, honest question. Why are you carrying that alone? So here's something I need y'all to understand, and y'all hone in on this very carefully here. There's some shit that happens in your life. It's not meant for you to handle it on your own, right? So we know the word says he wouldn't put more on you than you can bear. I get it. But also, we understand that sometimes there are people that are put in your life to hold you up, right? And so God doesn't put more on you than you can bear, but God has also put some helpers in your circle. So yeah, we see that he wouldn't be more than you can bear, but some things, you all, are literally too much for you to handle. This is how the stress kicks in. This is where the depression comes in up out of nowhere. This is where the internalized isolation comes from, because you are now trying to carry it alone. But there's literally some things, y'all, it's just too much. It's just too much. There's some things that become so overwhelming that I just go, you know what? So I got my friends. I'm going to tell you right now, I got my friends. I got my circle of folks who I can call and who I can talk to. Or more importantly, some people, you're so in tune with them, y'all, you can hear it in their voice. that there's a change in the tone that you used to, that you now know that something is going on. So moving beyond how you're doing, also encourage this, you all, listening without fixing, right? Listening without fixing. Sometimes all that person needs, who's the known helper, is they just need you to listen. So I want to challenge and invite you all in that moment, those of you who are watching, I'm just going to say, sometimes once you probe a little bit deeper and you start asking them questions about what's weighing in on them, are you trying to see what they're struggling with, you trying to asking them why they're carrying it alone, then don't try to fix it, just listen. Now, I want to give a quick caution out here, and I'm going to be honest and authentic. There's some people in your circle, right? Think about this. There's some people in your circle you shouldn't be having a conversation with about what's going on, because they're not really good at that, right? And so if you're a professional and you're a helper, you know people. I got a friend, my friend is the worst helper on the planet. You try to talk to him about what's going on, he's going to give you his recommendation, and if you don't like that recommendation, then he concludes with shit, then you don't want the help. These are the kind of people that you have to be careful with. Now, an organization I belong to called Let Us Make Man, a gathering to reclaim Black manhood. The elder in our group, Baba Jihad, he always says this. He says, you don't need to be telling people all your problems. Now, I know this might sound a little contradictory, but it's honest and authentic. He says that, sometimes it's no good to tell people your problems who don't have the capacity or the ability or the emotional intelligence to help you. So if you're that type of person, then you have to be careful. But I'm going to say this, for those of you who are going to go to the helpers and help people in the helping profession, know this. You don't want to unpack some shit that you don't have you don't want to unravel some shit that you don't have the ability or the time to put back together. So be careful when we do check in on people that you try to probe with people, but you don't have the time or you don't have the capacity around empathy in that moment to hear them. Don't unravel it. Don't ask them. Don't try to push to get someone, especially the person who's the helper. Don't try to get them to unpack and you don't have the ability to weigh that back in, right? So I want to encourage asking deep questions. I want to encourage you to do that. But at the same time, for those of you who are trying to get the courage to get off the pedestal and come, I want to encourage you all that I do need you to be selective about who you talk to. So here's a curveball I want to throw, right? Gina says, what can I do to be most supportive of you in that moment? Oh, I like that. These are those encouraging questions Gina's posing here, right? And so there it is, silence in the moment, listening to fixing the space. That's a very powerful, Gina, that we take our time. Again, when we ask, I think, an honest and authentic question like that, trying to get the helper to talk. Right. So I'm challenging right now your circle. I'm challenging the people, for you helpers, you super helpers. I want to challenge the people in your circle, to the friends, to the brothers, to the partners, to the sisters, to the circle around you, and to everyone who's in the Strong One circle. First of all, I'm going to tell you, Strong One, you need to do an inventory of your circle. Because if the only people in your circle are the people that you serve, then you need to make some adjustments in your circle. And that's your own self-care, right? The moment that you begin to sacrifice your own self-care, you will lose yourself and begin to care less for yourself. So I'm going to tell you that for the people in your circle, for those of you around, I'm going to tell you right now, and this message is to all the supporters and all the people who surround the superheroes in the circle. Stop assuming they're okay. That's number one. Stop assuming that they got their shit together, because they don't. right? You might have to be a little more assertive and, as Shaka said earlier, in humanizing them. So stop calling them only when you need something. So you all, anyone who knows me, that I randomly call friends and I'll check in. We good. I call Greg Sims. Greg, you straight? Or Greg will call me. G, you all right? Yeah, I'm good today, man. Hey, man, you straight, man? I saw you and you look, yeah, man. Right. So I need you all, those of you who are in the circle, I need y'all to learn to start checking in on people. DJ Andre, good to see you. You all, we're talking about the question of why no one checks in on the strong ones, or why is nobody checking in on the strong ones? That's where we are. And so right now, I'm challenging the circle, right? And so that means the people who are surrounding the strong ones, I'm telling you, let me kind of go back on this. Stop assuming that the people are okay. Y'all might know a minister, y'all might know a therapist, might know a counselor, y'all may know a caregiver, right? Stop only calling them when you need something, right? Some of y'all got family members, you only hear from them when they're in crisis or when they need something, right? And so these are the kind of people when it is okay. I need you to learn to say I'm not good, right? Or no, I ain't available today. I can't do it, right? And then for you superheroes, there's a couple things I want to throw at you, right? Identify the strong one in your life. For the superheroes, who's the strong one in your life? And for those of you who are watching, identify the strong one in your life. Do me a favor on tonight. Reach out them differently of this week. Just randomly reach out. And you all, this is what I need y'all to do, especially talking to those superheroes. I'm just checking in on you, right? Stay long enough to hear the truth, y'all. That if a strong one is finally getting the courage to come off that pedestal for that moment, I need you to stay with them long enough to hear their truth, right? If the only time you call them is when you're in need, then you are part of the problem. Hold on. Did y'all hear what I just said? That if the only time when you call on somebody is that when you need them, then here's the reality. You might be part of the problem, right? So that might be a little overwhelming. That might be a little heavy to accept, but it is the truth. You could very well be the person or the one who's contributing to the burnout or the compassion fatigue, because, and you know that's happening because they'll start avoiding your call. I think Shaka mentioned that earlier. Or no, Gina did, or Teddy. No, it was Teddy on here, said that then what ends up happening is that they become less and less available. Some of us, we have relied so much on those helpers in our circles we have a one-way relationship with them. So I'm going to challenge you this moment right now to reverse that a little bit. You have got to be able to make yourself available for them, right? I need you to check in on them. I need you to make sure they're okay. And if the answer is no, then why haven't you said something? You know, that's a crazy thing, because when I told you that there's some things that we go through in life is not meant for us to carry alone. And then the self-sabotaging thing that we engage in is that here's what that helper said. And I said this earlier. I don't want to burden you, man. I already know you got a lot of shit going on in your life. So now remember, you talking to the person who you have helped. 99% of y'all relationship dynamic has been you helping them. And now all of a sudden, you're saying that I already know you got a lot going on. But I'm going to tell you that sometimes that the dynamic is such that, and I'm going to tell you from a spiritual standpoint, if you continue to deny that as a reality, then there will be more put on you, and there will be more put on you. And when they say would put more on you than you can bear, because in that spiritual peace, like I said, because you've also been given people on your left and your right to support you. But I'm being also honest and probably a little uncomfortable for some people is that you, because of the ego or because of your expertise, you have positioned yourself that the only people in your circle are the ones that you gain help from. And for some people, y'all ready for this? There's some helpers in the profession, how they self-medicate is helping other people. Think about that. For some people, this is how they treat themselves. Their coping mechanism is helping other people. So that's why I say you could inadvertently become part of the problem. That now they'll start reaching with other people. And y'all want to hear something crazy? Believe it or not, it is much easier to deal with other people's shit than to deal with our own. Y'all hear what I'm saying? That sometimes it is, because if we're dealing with other people's stuff, this is why when someone becomes the type of helper, they start looking for people to help. Now we know we are in a phase in a little different place now, because they're looking for people to help. They're seeking that. So now it becomes a little bit more problematic. So these are the things that, and why I wanted to stop in and jump into this discussion when I said, why is no one helping the strong ones? Is because the strong ones are not meant to be that strong. So a couple things I just literally want to kind of leave you with here today, that the world celebrates the strong ones. They do. Everyone, but they rarely support them. We acknowledge them. We highlight them. Some people even get awards and accolades for being strong. So the world celebrates it, but we rarely support them. As a matter of fact, we may not realize how to. Good to see you, Lorena Lopez. Glad to have you on. We are wrapping up an important discussion about why is no one checking on the strong ones. And you all, I'm going to repost this and on my YouTube, and everything I'm talking about and some of these discussions that are more deeper level, you can go to my YouTube channel, the Dr. Geo White Show, and you'll see several different discussions around mental health, around family, around fatherhood, around community, that I think are absolutely important. But today, I'm just slowing down the tape and pausing for a moment with this discussion about checking in on the strong one. So I just told you that the world celebrates the strong ones, but they rarely support them. We applaud their resilience, right, while ignore their reality, right? So, we're gonna recognize, damn, with all the shit you're going in through, man, I'm just so impressed, right? This is how it goes. Man, I'm just so impressed with how you handle all the shit at the same time, man. And you manage to bounce back and keep it going. This is the front. It's what I call the invincible wall of vulnerable bricks. So we're going to applaud their resilience while ignore their reality. And y'all, I've gotten a little cynical about the concept of being resilient. I've become a little cynical about the concept of resilience. And and when I've come to realize that there's a truth, being the strong one can be the loneliest place to live. You are invincible while at invincible wall of vulnerable bricks. You become that person that everyone knows and everyone has gotten so accustomed to with you. But the truth is, the reality, you are that invincible wall of vulnerable bricks, and you're working hard every day so that no one can see your bricks. So the truth that you have created becomes problematic because everyone leans on you, but no one looks for you. Right? These are the truths and the things that you've created, that everyone leans on you, but no one looks for you. Right? No one checks in. So y'all hear me clearly. Strength is not resilience. And like I said, I become a little cynical about the concept of resilience, because resilience means celebrating that somebody's come out of some shit. That means we catch them on the back end, right? And so the strong Black woman, we're going to celebrate the strong Black woman. And I'm sitting up here saying, but woman, you ain't got to be strong all the time. Or the strong Black man, brother, you ain't got to be strong all the time. And so we need to see these as important realities, that strength is not suffering alone. I think it's absolutely important that we recognize and see that strength is not pretending you're okay when you're falling apart. These are some realities, you all, that we hone in on as our reality. So real strength, couple things as we begin to get out of here. Real strength is having the courage to say, I need help too. Right? That's real courage, right? And if you're strong, if you're the strong one, I need you to understand this. If you're that strong one, as we close out, you are allowed to be healed. You're allowed to be seen, and you're allowed to not have it all together, right? I want to give you all that permission as a reality that you're allowed to be that way. So don't wait until breaking in, that breaking down becomes your language of communication. And also, and to those around you, those around the strong ones, right? Don't wait for the strong one to collapse before you decide to care, before you decide to be concerned. One of the most painful things that I hear about people who have lost a loved one to suicide, one of the most powerful things is that they say, when I hear someone say, I knew it, I knew something was wrong, I should have checked in on them. And we see all that. And I'm saying, don't wait for that. Why? Because sometimes the strongest people don't cry out, they quietly disappear. So check in on them, listen deeper, stay longer, because strength should never have to suffer in silence. These are my realities. And these are the points that I wanted to come through online today and just talk to you. So do me a favor. I'm going to ask you all to check in on the strong ones. And to my strong ones, I need you to declare today that I'm going to give you permission to go on vacation. I'm going to give you permission to tell somebody just in this moment, this week, I'm not good. No, I don't need no help, but just this week, I'm not good. Or today, I didn't hit my capacity, right? So, and those of you who are the superheroes, I need you to come forward, and it is okay. Take the inventory of your circle. Find somebody that you can talk to, that you can be vulnerable to. And if you can't, I'm going to also encourage you to say to them, right now, I ain't good. I need a little help. So I'm Dr. Gary O. White. I want you all to go to my YouTube channel. I need some new followers. I'm trying to go to the Dr. G.O. White Show on my YouTube. You can also see me on Instagram, the Dr. G.O. White Show. Y'all log in, check out several of my episodes on my YouTube channel. I seek to cover all of these issues here and many more. These are the tools that you can use. All you have to do is log in, check in, tune in, like, share, and subscribe. Like, share, and subscribe. So go to my YouTube channel. Check out my other TikToks. I got them all there. Like, share, and subscribe. Tell somebody that you had the opportunity to have a session on Today with Dr. G.O. White. To those who have chimed in and gave a valuable discussion, Shaka Barrett, thank you. Gina Golden, thank you. Teddy, thank you. Anthony, thank you. All the people who have chimed in, you all. I will see each and every one of you next week at 6:30 p.m. Eastern Time for another exciting and powerful TikTok Live. So y'all join in and tell somebody what we got going on here. And I think I'm going to say this with all honesty, you will thank me for it. So jump in, tell somebody, tell a friend about Dr. G.O. White, and let's see if we can continue to grow.